The New York Times now reporting that former Vice President Joe Biden is in the final stages of deciding whether to run for president, and that he remains skeptical that all the other Democrats mulling a run could actually beat Trump in 2020. Joining me now on the phone is Jonathan Martin of The New York Times. Jonathan, when will we know if Biden is running or not?
Well, thanks for having me. I think we'll know something within the next month. That's according to numerous Biden supporters who say that he does recognize the need to make clear his plans this time. They are acutely sensitive to the criticism that he got 4 years ago when he, dragged out his deliberations for some time and then obviously did not run. And I think they want to make a decision here either way in the next few weeks. But I will tell you from our reporting, the conversations that the former vice president had over the holidays, and he and his wife were in the Virgin Islands and he was working the phones. The folks that talked to him said that they came away thinking that he is in fact leaning towards running.
Oh, so interesting. I'm wondering about the timing of this article that you co-wrote with Alex Burns, coming out the very same weekend that Elizabeth Warren is barnstorming Iowa. Anything we should read into this?
No, I think it's more about the fact that the holidays are over, and the vice president said he was going to use the holidays to think about this, talk to his family about it, and he did more than that. He had some conversations with some allies, and look, I think he is thinking very seriously about running, and there is a school of thought in the Democratic Party, especially among donors, but not just with donors, that the only thing that matters in 2020, relatively speaking, is finding somebody that can beat President Trump. And there are people in the party who think that he would have the best shot, Biden would, to beat President Trump.
Do you see a Biden candidacy being the ultimate primary test of whether this is still the party of the old guard or if it is ready to pass the torch to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Beto O'Rourke's?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the overriding questions is, does the party want to sort of go with a continuity, somebody who would kind of reflect a left of center, but pragmatic politics in the kind of Clinton and Obama tradition, or do they want to go, not just ideologically more to the left, but also find somebody who is more confrontational, somebody who wants to not, work with the Republicans, but, thwart them. And I think that's one of the big questions with Biden here is he's from the old school. And when I say that, I mean, he, when he's in 2015 said he was not going to run, he used that Rose Garden speech with President Obama to say, look, the Republicans are the opposition. They're not the enemy. And I think that kind of mentality still has currency with a lot of folks in this country who are sick of the polarization, who are sick of all the fighting among politicians. But there's a lot of people in the grassroots of the Democratic Party who think we can't work with the Republicans anymore, certainly in the Trump era. And, we have to have somebody who's going to fight fire with fire, not somebody who's going to try to, bring folks together and work across party lines.
Well, Biden can fight fire with his own rhetoric. We've seen it before. I mean, if it becomes a Trump versus Biden fight, it's not an ordinary political rivalry. These two have literally talked about beating each other up. Remember this?
When a guy who ended up becoming a national leader said, I can grab a woman anywhere and she likes it, and then said, I made a mistake. I didn't make a mistake. They asked me would I like to debate this gentleman. I said, no. I said, we were in high school. I'd take you behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Did you see where Biden wants to take me to the back of the barn? Me. He wants it. I'd love that. I'd love that. Mr. Tough Guy. He's Mr. Tough Guy. When he's Mr. Tough Guy? When he's standing behind a microphone by himself. That's when he wants to bring me to the back of the barn. Oh. Some things in life you could really love doing.
Jonathan, what would this fight look like?
Well, you're right. First of all, I think Biden's rhetoric about working with the Republicans means more some of his old colleagues in the Senate. Certainly, I don't mean President Trump, that there's no love lost between the two of them. Look, I think Joe Biden is an institutionalist, right? He served in the Senate for 36 years. He was vice president for 8 years. He respects the country's institution, and he is contemptuous of President Trump because he believes this president has no use for institutions, who is sort of breaking norms, who is causing real damage to the country and how the country is viewed abroad. And I think that's part of the motivation here. I think Biden views this, and some of his supporters certainly do, as more of a national emergency election. That this is not some ideological, task between various factions on the left, but that they think this is a moment where we just have to have somebody come in and sort of heal the land and bring the country back together. And I think that would be one of their selling points if he does run. But I'll say, Anna, talking to some of the Biden folks, they do worry a little bit privately about if Biden does run, and Trump taunts him, just having to restrain the vice president from going too far. You play that clip about taking him behind the score at the back of the barn. There's some worry about that sort of Biden would pop off a little bit if Trump really does bring it on.
Well, I wonder if that would even be a bad thing in this day and age, where what used to be gaffes or, being politically incorrect was seen as such a weakness. And now here we have Trump, and so many people liked him.
Is that, the Biden folks are going to argue that, the sort of Biden gaffe tendencies would be devalued politically. It wouldn't hurt him as much politically because they would say, well, if President Trump says outlandish things all the time, he's not going to get penalized for his sort of Bidenism. That the world would look differently this time around if he does run and sort of say off-key things.
Jonathan Martin, thanks for your reporting, for sharing with us tonight.